Hey friends and everyone, welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. I am Frederick, as you know, and I'm happy to have you here today. In this video, we are going to look at how to create a robust and resilient web API. In the context of .NET, a resilient and robust API refers to an application programming interface that is designed to handle various types of failures gracefully and ensure reliable performance under different conditions. Some of these conditions are the fault tolerance, retry logic, circuit breaker pattern, fallback procedures, timeout, and error handling. And in this video, we are going to look at some of them. So let's look at the concept of retry, wait and retry, retry forever, and now wait and retry forever. All these concepts help the developer to make an API call. It's not actually an API call. Make an external API call. Within your API, you can make an external service call. Now, when you make an external service call and there's an error, there's fault in it, do you want to retry? Now, instead of allowing the user to click on retry, you decide to have a mechanism to retry calling the API service number of times before you display the result to the user. Retry forever means until there's a success status code being retrieved from the third service. The system will keep retrying, so that's why we call it retry forever. And now wait and retry is whereby you specify a number of time, seconds, minutes, hours to wait and make another retry. So the first retry has been performed. After that, wait for some time, then perform another retry. Then we have retry, wait, and retry forever. That is, start making a call. When you have any error, wait for some time, make it again. So it is going to repeat itself until a status code of 200 or a success response is being received from the service. Okay, so let's first jump into the retry. Now I'm going to create a blank solution and I'm going to add two web API projects. Now we are going to assume that the second API project is a service somewhere that we are going to call. Okay, so in that we can issue some delay so that we can have an error in the first API. Actually, we are doing that to check to understand this. All right. Let's get into it and you're going to understand it better. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to click on a new project. I'm going to create a blank solution for this, then add two projects so you can do same. So I have the name Demo Resilient and Robust API Solution and I have the location selected already. So I'm going to create this. After that, I'm going to add two projects. So the first project is going to be an API 1 and API 2. I'm not going to give you any different name, unique name, no. API 1, API 2. But well, you can give it any name of your choice, okay? So I'm going to add a new project to this. Then that's going to be an API 1. So click on create. You want everything to set default and hit on the create button to get it created. Aside from this, we're going to create another one. So we're going to add another one and this is going to be API 2, as you know. Okay, so we have an API 1, we have an API 2 in here. We're going to build this project together. So you can see that we have the two projects built succeeded. So this we're going to do, we're going to let the API 2 going to be like an external service that you're going to be making a call to, right? So we don't want to touch the API 2. We want to use the default one. So when you go to the controller, we have weather forecast controller defaultly created for us for testing purpose. So all that you're going to do here is to increase this to 15, and that is all. Let's also keep track of the ports, and that is 7001. That's right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is we go to our API in here. We're going to install poly package. That is what we're going to use to perform this. So install poly. And that is this. Okay, so it has been installed successfully. Now what we're going to do here is let's go to our API and on the controller. So weather forecast controller, instead of having this default one, we're going to get rid of this. Yes. Okay, and now in here, there's going to be, you're going to make it as async task. Then action result. Okay, so we have this, and we're going to make the call in here. So this is supposed to be closing. That's right. So the first concept that I'm going to talk about here, it is a retry logic. Now implementing a retry mechanism to automatically reattempt failed operations. So if the operation fails, then it's going to reattempt it. Okay, and now with this we can specify the number of retry counts. And now when this count exceeds and still there's no status code of success, then it's going to quit it, because by then it might have consumed or it might have finished executing the number of retry count that we specified. Okay, so let's go to the program.cs file from the API 1. You're going to, since you're going to be using an HTTP client, we need to add a service to this. I'm going to make a duplicate of this. Now let's go back. And now in here, let's first create a private method. Now this is going to get access to an API, so connect to API. And now the port that we need here, it is 7001. Do you remember? We need to use an HTTP client, so this means we have to inject an HTTP client in here. Okay, now once you're done with this, we're going to make a call in this. Before that, we need to create a policy, and now this is going to be a retry policy. So let's have a retry policy created, and now we need to use this policy coming from this using poly package that we installed. And now here we are specifying this retry method. As you can see, now this policy, we need some parameters. The first parameter here is a retry count. So how many times do you want to retry in case it fails? 3 times. For me, 3 is okay. Now when on retry, maybe I want to display something for you to see, but in a production purpose, I'm not sure you're going to include this. You're not going to display something in the console, right? So here we have it displayed for us to see the number of counts in it. And aside from that, we have the policy, so we need to use the policy when calling this API. And in order to do that, we're going to have a method known as an execute, and we're using this policy, retry policy.execute. We pass in this connect to API, and that's the method that we have called in here. Now we check if it is true that the status code is success, then we're going to read from JSON in the form of a list or array. If not, we're going to throw an exception. And now since we have this an exception here, as soon as this gets it thrown, this is going to handle that. And now retry is going to get it, you're going to start to work. Yes, okay. So we try an exception, we catch the exception, and we're going to start implementing this retry method in there. Okay, now this is very simple. This is all that we need to do, and that is all. We are done. Yeah, that is how good poly is. Okay. So once we're done with this, we're going to run this. So first of all, we're not going to call this API 2. We're going to run only the API 1. Now let's try this and check it out. Now you can see that this section is ready. You can see it is open. Now let's bring back the console. I have the console here. Okay, so we're going to click on this and I'll try this out. You know, the API 2 is down. So let's see. You can see first retry. We specify the number of times I want to retry as 3 times. So this is the first one. Let's wait and see the second one. So you can see that you have the retry attempt of 2. They're going to have the last one, 3 in here. And now let's see, still it's going to fail. So you can see we have this exception. And now the exception is telling us that no connection could be made because the target machine actively refused it. Okay, now when we check our endpoint 2, we have the same thing. Now in order to override this exception and actually decorate this a little bit and tell the user something which is more meaningful to the user, you have to surround the method with try catch block. So let's do that. So in here, instead of doing this, you're going to do this try. Then you can have the catch block. And in here, we are just returning bad request. So sorry, error occurred. Now, once you have this, let's retry this and now check it out. Now, let's click on this, try this out. And now, let's see, we're going to have this 3 retries. So, this is the first one, second, and that is the last one. Now, you see, we did not have any error display down here. When we check our endpoint, you can see that we had this sorry error occurred. So this is a customized exception that you want to display to the user. And you can see that's the best way to do it. Okay. So now we've seen how to use this retry policy with a specific number of retry attempts. Now, what if in case you want to retry until you get a success status code from the server? You don't want to quit it whilst you haven't retrieved or you haven't gotten what you want. Okay, well, I will not do that, but in case you want to do that, I'll show you how to do it. You can use the retry forever. You can use that to hit all the same service until you get what you want. And in order to do that, we can just comment this here. Then let's create a policy for that. So retry forever policy. And in that, you're using this retry forever async. Then we're going to specify an exception and retry count and in our context. So within here, we want to display what is making a retry. You want to display it in here. Okay. And instead of this, we need to use this retry policy to execute this method. Very simple. Now let's run this and check this out. Let's hit on the method. Now we check the console. Now we know that the service or the API 2 is down. So we have a first request. Now it's going to be refused. Now to execute this till yes, it's not going to stop because you're saying that retry forever, and it's going to do it forever until the machine comes to life and now give it what it wants. So let's see. So you can see that it's going to be refused. Now if I decide to run this, so let's see, if I run this API 2, let's start with that debugging. Now this is running. So let's see, the next request I'm going to make, the service or the API will be available and it's going to get a response. So let's see. Now let's make sure we have the other endpoint opening. And I can see we have it. So it was making the request and fortunately the API was live. So it got what it needed and that's why we have it. So you can see that we had about 9 attempts before we got the service active. Okay, so 9 attempts we had that. Okay, Now once it's done, the last one I'm going to talk about here, it is wait and retry. You know, when we have a look in your, when we check this console, you can see that this making a request too fast. You see, maybe there's a default time configured in here, but what if in case you want to have a delay? When it makes first request, it should wait for about 10 seconds before it makes another request. And from that request, there should be a delay of 10 seconds. How can it do it? Let's have a look. We need to use an endpoint of what? Wait and retry. And in that too, we can have wait and retry forever. You see? I believe we can do that. Oh, okay. Let's give a try in here and see how we can configure that. So let me comment this. So in our wait and retry policy, we can first have to configure or specify our time span, and that is the second that you want to delay. So the delay, we want to specify it in here, and in this we want a 10-second interval. In that we have our wait and retry async, specify the number of retry count, and now that's the sleep duration. So the delay is where you need to specify in here, and that's the waiting time. That is of 10 seconds. And in that, on retry, we're doing the same thing. And in there, after that, we need to use this to execute the method. And that is all that we need to do. So instead of calling this instantaneously, now this is going to wait for 10 seconds and now call another one for 3 times before we have our catch block displayed. Sorry, error occurred because the server is going to refresh it. Now let's see. So I'm going to close all and let's start the API 1 again. Now that is ready, so click on try this out. Let's check our console. So we're going to have the first retry. So okay, execute this. So we have our first retry. It's going to wait for 10 seconds. We're going to have another retry. Yes, another retry. We wait for 10 seconds and I'll try the last one because we specify 3 count. Let's wait for the last one, 10 seconds interval again. Yes. Then it's going to create it. So let's see. So instead of displaying no connection code made because the target machine actively refused it, we're going to have a customized display. Now let's see from the last one. And we have this, sorry, error occurred. So instead of displaying this, the error, we are now having this. Okay. So we see that we have our time interval displayed, and now we had the 10 seconds interval, and now we had it. Okay. Now we also have the same thing, wait retry policy, and we can have wait retry forever async. Okay. You can also specify this in there. If you want to retry forever, and the seconds or the time interval you want to be 10 seconds interval, you can also do that. Now let's see. So I'm going to just comment this. And on here, I'll paste it. So wait retry forever policy. Let me have this forever in there. Forever policy. And I need that you see we are not specifying the retry attempt. We're specifying only the waiting time. Okay, so retry attempt, this is supposed to be the time. So we're specifying the waiting time, and we are displaying the same thing in there. Okay, now let's see. We are going to use that in there. Now let's run this and check this out. So we're going to try this. Execute, check this, the console. And now this shouldn't end. It should exceed more than the 3 that we specified previously, because here it's forever. So we have the second retry. Let's see if it will exceed the third one. So we have the third one in here, and now it's going to move to the fourth one. Yes, and now you have the fourth one. So this has no ending. It's going to retry until the service becomes active. Alright, so that is a way to make an API resilient and robust. We've looked at using a retry, that's a retry async, retry forever, wait and retry, and a wait and retry forever. So there are a lot, but in this video I'm going to cover this. I hope it is clear. Alright, so in the next video I'm going to talk about another way to make your API robust and resilient. Maybe you're going to talk about the next concept. Alright, so then take care and I'll see you again.